What if the absolute key to complete energy independence wasn't hidden beneath the vast deserts of Rajasthan or up in the mountains of the Northeast? What if, instead, it was sitting quietly right under the ocean floor, literally next door to one of our most famous holiday destinations? I know, it sounds a little wild. But hey, if you've been watching the wildly shifting prices of your cooking gas or stressing over those electricity bills, you need to hear this. A massive structural shift has just been triggered out in the Indian Ocean. We're talking about a historic discovery that fundamentally changes the map for us.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're unpacking a truly explosive piece of energy news. And this isn't just big picture stuff. This is news that's going to directly impact our economic security and, frankly, your future household expenses. So Union Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister Hardeep Singh Puri just officially announced that the state-owned energy giant Oil India Limited has made a monumental natural gas discovery right off the east coast of the Andaman Islands. Guys, this is not just some routine find. It's a massive breakthrough that literally alters our national energy destiny.
So here's our quick roadmap for today's Explainer. First, we'll look at this ocean of energy. 2, we'll break down the deep sea challenge. 3, we'll cover the Andaman breakthrough itself. 4, we'll talk about lowering your energy bills. And finally, number 5, powering a cleaner future. Let's get to it.
Section 1. An ocean of energy, the hidden treasure in the Andaman Sea.
To get our baseline context down, we first really need to understand what we're actually looking for out there. Natural gas is basically nature's ultra-clean fossil fuel. It's primarily methane, and it gets trapped deep within ancient rock layers inside the Earth. It's created over millions and millions of years by just intense heat and pressure. Now, when we find this clean fuel on land, extracting it is, well, it's relatively straightforward, right? You clear the dirt, you drill a hole, and you pipe it right out to a refinery. Easy enough. But when this exact same fuel is trapped beneath the ocean floor, the entire extraction game shifts to extreme mode. You're no longer just dealing with dirt and rock. You're dealing with practically the most hostile environment on the planet.
Which brings us to Section 2, the Deep Sea Challenge, Engineering in Extreme Conditions.
To really understand why offshore drilling is so incredibly difficult, think about the contrast between land and sea. With land drilling, it's a straight shot down to the resource. The ground beneath your feet doesn't move. But deep sea drilling, that is an entirely different beast. To give you an analogy, imagine you are standing on the roof of a 3-story building on a super windy day. Now you're holding a long, thin piece of uncooked spaghetti, and you're trying to precisely poke it into a tiny keyhole all the way down on the sidewalk. Crazy, right? Well, that is exactly what deep-sea offshore drilling feels like. You're lowering a drill string through hundreds of meters of open, constantly moving ocean water, and then you have to drill down thousands of meters into the Earth's crust. And you're doing all of this while battling immense pressure, aggressive underwater currents, and even shifting tectonic plates.
Because this whole process is so insanely complex, companies don't just guess and drop a permanent multi-million-dollar rig into the ocean. Instead, they drill what's called an exploratory well. First, they run these advanced sound wave scans, seismic surveys, to essentially map out the underground architecture. Once they have a target, engineers drill this temporary, highly experimental hole, and its sole purpose is just to prove whether hydrocarbons physically exist down there in that specific rock formation. It is a massive, massive gamble. Seriously, each exploratory well can cost hundreds of crores of rupees to drill. It requires these massive logistics chains, and here's the kicker. It comes with absolutely zero guarantee of success. You could spend all that money and come up completely empty.
All right, moving on to Section 3, the Andaman Breakthrough, the Samudra Manthan mission in action.
So why is the energy sector in an absolute frenzy right now? Well, Oil India Limited just reported a highly successful natural gas find at an exploratory well called Sri Vijayapuram-3. This is located roughly 15 kilometers off the Andaman coast. And here is exactly how they pulled off this jaw-dropping engineering feat step by step. First up, they used those seismic surveys we talked about to find the target, bouncing sound waves off the seafloor to create a brilliant 3D map of the rock hiding below. Next, they actually had to penetrate the seafloor, which meant working through a sheer water depth of 355 meters. Then came Step 3, which required drilling over 1,900 meters deep into an ancient geological layer known as the Eocene Formation. The absolute moment of truth was Step 4, perforation and flaring. Once that drill bit finally pierced the gas reservoir, engineers performed perforation, basically making holes to let the gas flow. And bingo, they instantly recorded a rapid, heavy buildup of underground pressure. They then confirmed the find by continuously flaring, which is safely burning off the initial gas stream right at the surface, proving the well's flow and its stability.
Now, what's really interesting here is the massive success rate. This is actually the second highly successful gas discovery Oil India has made in this exact same block. They previously struck gas at Vijayapuram-3 back in September. So out of 3 experimental wells drilled in this specific campaign, 2 of them have hit substantial gas structures. Guys, that is a success rate of over 60%. Let me put that into perspective. In an unproven frontier basin like this, hitting 2 out of 3 wells is practically unheard of. It's like winning the lottery twice in a row. It provides definitive, scientific proof of a functioning petroleum system. Basically, it means this area has the absolute perfect mix of source rocks, migration pathways, and underground traps to hold a massive, massive ocean of energy.
But you know, this historic breakthrough did not just happen by accident. It was the direct result of a major government strategy called the Samudra Manthan Mission, also known as the National Deepwater Exploration Mission, which was launched by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. See, for decades, large parts of the Andaman Sea were strict military no-go zones because of defense restrictions. Nobody could drill there. But this mission deliberately cleared out major red tape barriers. It opened up these waters to domestic companies through something called the Open Acreage Licensing Policy. And that policy is what finally allowed heavy capital and investment to flow right into this region.
And because we now have this incredible proof of concept, India is rapidly moving into the next phase. They are actively collaborating with absolute global deepwater titans. We're talking about major players stepping up to partner. Companies like Petrobras from Brazil, Total Energies from France, along with industry giants like BP, Shell, and ExxonMobil. Meanwhile, Oil India isn't just sitting around. They've already launched an intensive appraisal program. They have processed a staggering 600 square kilometers of high-resolution 3D seismic data just to map the exact borders of this giant underwater field. Plus, they're currently calculating the gas's calorific value to figure out the absolute best, most efficient way to extract it commercially.
Which leads us directly to Section 4, lowering your energy bills, from geopolitics to local stability.
So, what does this all mean for you? Let's break down exactly how this discovery changes your daily life and, most importantly, your wallet. Right now, India is heavily dependent on foreign energy. We import a massive chunk of our natural gas as liquefied natural gas, or LNG, bringing it in on these giant transport ships. The problem? When you rely on imported LNG, the pricing is incredibly volatile. It is tied directly to global conflicts, wars, and sudden shipping disruptions. It literally has to be supercooled, transported across the entire ocean, and then regasified, which adds massive premiums to the final costs. So when global disruptions happen, prices skyrocket, and that instantly drives up the cost of your household piped cooking gas, the CNG for your cars, and yes, your electricity bills. But when we look at the impact of domestic gas, it's a game changer. Tapping into a local supply right in the Andaman Sea cuts out the foreign middleman completely. It removes those massive shipping costs and localizes the entire production. This heavily insulates everyday households from global inflation. It's exactly what paves the way for stable, actually affordable utility pricing for the common man.
And that brings us to Section 5, powering a cleaner future, transitioning away from coal.
So the crucial point here really centers around the government's ambitious new target for our national energy mix. To put things into perspective, right now, natural gas makes up about 6% of our total energy. But the nation has set a firm, aggressive new goal to grow that share by another 9%. That would push natural gas to 15% of our total energy mix by the year 2030. That is a huge leap forward in replacing older, dirtier energy sources.
Now you might be wondering, why push so hard for this specific transition? Well, it's simple. Natural gas is just vastly cleaner than coal or oil. When you burn it for power generation, it releases significantly less carbon dioxide and virtually zero toxic sulfur or nasty particulate matter. Successfully tapping into this Andaman gas means India can quickly start transitioning away from those old coal-fired power plants. And this shift directly addresses a major everyday problem for millions of us. It helps clean up the heavily polluted air in our major metropolitan cities. Plus, there's a huge economic bonus. Building out all this massive offshore infrastructure, it creates literally thousands of high-paying jobs for structural engineers, marine scientists, and logistics experts, all right here at home. This really brings us to a powerful summary of the whole macroeconomic impact. As it's been said, it transforms India from a country that simply buys foreign energy into a technological powerhouse. Now, let's be realistic for a second. It is definitely important to note that it's going to take a few years of high-tech appraisal and a lot of global collaboration before this gas actually feeds directly into our national grid. It won't happen overnight. But the ultimate takeaway here
is that this breakthrough permanently secures a self-reliant and financially stable future. It proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the nation absolutely has the engineering power to safeguard its own destiny.
Wow, we have covered some absolutely incredible ground today in this explainer. We've gone from the intense, mind-boggling engineering of deep-sea drilling all the way to exactly how this local gas supply is going to lower your household utility costs and help clean up our air. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a slightly provocative question to chew on. Now that our very own oceans are revealing these massive, untapped energy secrets, should we focus entirely on extracting this domestic gas to guarantee grid stability? Or should we continue to pour our capital heavily into renewables like solar and electric vehicles? It's a genuinely fascinating debate about our broader energy strategy moving forward. So think about it. Thank you so much for joining me for today's deep dive. Keep learning, and as always, keep asking the big questions.